Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sundays Are for Contemplation. I'm Soph, one of your hosts,
And I'm Nicole, your other host.
and here we have an interview with SARES. Hi, SARES. How are you?
Hi, how are you? All good here. Nice.
Good.
I'm honored to be here for real. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Of course. Well, we're honored to have you on here. And I'm excited because this is part of a little series that we're doing about interviewing different people in the space. Last week we had Andres Delvecchio, who is also part of the Primavera Digitale Residency. And coming up, we also have another special guest, Mr. K. So I'm really excited to have you on and be able to talk to you about your artistic journey, the residency. Yeah.
So I
Cool.
think we wanted to move forward and ask you a little bit about yourself. You can kind of introduce yourself to our listeners, and yeah.
Sure. Well, I am Sares, a digital mixed media artist from Argentina who plays with data to create visual experiences, focusing on gives a place to pause life to the spectator. Like all
Mhm.
my work is focused on on a kind of reflections based on different emotions, which sometimes are triggered by my own memories or vivences, and sometimes are just experimentation on real time, um, using the spectator as a part of the piece to create one digital place to reflect and take a pause and
Hmm.
just contemplate what's in front of them.
Yes. Amazing. I was gonna ask, how did you? Well, I mean, this is like a very to me like an abstract I guess inspiration for your art. Like, is there like some sort of like philosophy or like I don't know if philosophy is the right word, but just kind of like methodology that like inspired you to kind of approach your art in this way?
Yeah, it's a mix, because philosophy it's a big part inside of my inspiration right now. Like I really love to reflect about the present, the past, and the future. Like for me, it's all about chaos, and chaos is a really big part of the human thought and philosophy too. So inside what chaos means to me, like I used to take a lot of ideas from psychology. That's why
Mhm.
I like to play with emotions, because I feel like we, we sometimes we don't feel really comfortable, talking about ourselves or about what we feel, and it's a kind of taboo. And it's really nice to explore how we can talk about it without say any word, just playing with images and using data to trigger them. Also, as part of my inspiration, I'm always looking for ideas based on, like the old masters. I think like the Renaissance
Mhm.
in particular has a really big has a really big part on my career. Not right now. Also, since I started, for example, I always my family tell me a story when I was really young, as a kind of baby,
Mhm.
in my grandma's house were some art books, and I always played with them, just look into them and trying to grab a Rembrandt frame artwork. And
Mhm.
so I think like I always had a kind of relation with these old masters. So I feel really comfortable looking for inspirations into their work.
Yeah. And on your artistic journey specifically, what kind of led you to maybe becoming a digital artist? Like, when was that first moment that you encountered, like, I want to really focus my time on this? And eventually, how did that lead you to encounter the residency, for example?
Oh, that's a really good question because during my life, I had like different approach to art, like as a photographer at first, then as a kind of designer, then I became an art director working on advertising. Like I really always be part was part of the art,
Mhm.
but everything started, I think, before before the pandemic. I think there was there were a kind of really break or really interesting break that I remember because, for example, all my professional life, I was a kind of afraid of 3D because people say that no, it's so difficult and it's expensive and it takes a lot of time, and I love challenges. If someone say don't do it, I will do it twice. So I started learning that, and in that case, I spent all the pandemic playing with my computer and learning Houdini. And a
Mhm.
friend and a designer that worked in my studio told me that, oh, did you hear about NFTs? And I said, no. Can you? That was in 2021, early 2021. And I said, no. Can you tell me more about it? Because we are sometimes looking to monetize our work, not and start developing something more than just an Instagram post. And
Mhm.
that's when I entered the space in August, I think, after a kind of not a kind of mental breakdown, but a kind of mental challenge. I remember that I was arguing with a family, with a member of my family, and I started feeling like that kind of feeling, when you want to break something, and I don't want
Yeah.
to break my furniture, so I said to myself like, just let's break some things with the computer, and that's when Fragilis born, and that was my first release
Wow.
on the digital world, and after that I just was I play I I use a lot of time to develop that idea of and my concept, because I didn't knew a lot about art or a kind of professional art way, because I don't have a kind of art background on my education, and I'm just a self-made artist. And after that, after I think 2 years, 2 really good years, I started falling into a kind of burnout because was a lot like mixing my work, the studio direction and the artwork, and the art world like was really a lot, and I started struggling a lot with that kind of toxic thoughts. So
Right.
one day I was talking with Barb, and she told me like, hey, you need to take a pause, and that wasn't an option before in my life. I'm a kind of those guys who only knows one direction, go
Mhm.
to the front. And I said I was feeling really really bad that those times, and I say, okay, yeah, you are right. And I think that was yeah, December of 2023. And one day I wake up. I think it was the first day of 2024,
Mm-hmm.
was really early in the morning. I was just drinking mate and thinking about everything, looking through the window, and everything and everyone was just sleeping. All the city was sleeping because it was the first day of the year, and everyone is just struggling with headaches and alcohol. And I was just drinking mate there, and I made a question to myself, like, what happened if I did, or if I do generative art? I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, this is cool. Let's Google it. And I think that moment was when my career started in a more professional way, or with a more professional approach. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's when I decided to become a professional artist, and it triggered everything you know now.
Yeah, that's super amazing. Yeah, like the journey. I mean, we've talked a lot about on this podcast about burnout and I guess just finding inspiration for things.
Hmm.
And
I think what strikes me too, like what I think resonates with a lot of artists, is when you create something out of such emotion. Like you said, like you wanted to break something and you channeled that, you transmuted that energy into creating something instead, sort of. Um, as well as the fact that it took you a long time to get to this point. It's like the butterfly effect. And for so many people in this space, I always am fascinating to hear how they started to create digital art and like transform, because it's such a new space that it's like
yeah.
everyone risks something to kind of take this, I
And
think.
I mean, to compare also to the interview we did with Andres, like we asked him as well, like when did you start going on to creating like on-chain art? And it was kind of like the same, like there was kind of like this in the like question in the back of her mind of like what is the value, like what do I want the value of my life and art to be. And I
Hmm.
mean it's just really interesting to see like how a lot of the artists that are on chain just kind of have this like similar mentality, which is, I mean, it's really refreshing. Just well, I did want to ask you something that I know you shared with us in the residency, but I don't know if you want to share, but like where like SARES comes from, like your artist name. I think it's really beautiful.
Oh, SARES, it's a really beautiful long short story. I Yeah, one little thing I really love that you mentioned the butterfly effect, because
Hmm.
that's based on the, the chaos theory, and that
Hmm.
those kind of emotions who uh, that that came from a moment of anger, or just sometimes sadness, or that stuff, in my opinion, are a kind of the most purest emotions. They are pure because you are not cover them, like you just let them go and need to express that. So that's why I think it sometimes all of us, all the artists has like the same trigger, or the same initiation inside the art world. And regarding to service, oh, that's good. Uh, my name is Santiago, and at first when I started, my artistic name was SNTG, and a friend of mine,
Hmm.
also which is my first collector, JJ. I love him. I really love that guy, and he told me like, "Hey, bro, you need to change that, because I can't write it. If I need to find you, it's really difficult." I said, "Yeah, you're right. It's not a kind of brand name, it's not catchy. Are just consonants." And he said, "You need to start working on a rebrand." I consider him like a mentor in my career, because
Hmm.
he like guided me a lot, and I really appreciate his opinion, because he's really hard, but he speaks with truth, and I really love that. I don't like when words are just decorating things. And
Mhm.
I started working on that after after my first year on the digital art world, and I started just thinking about it. And at first, I used to work with Barb, because she's on 3D too, so we
Yeah.
worked a lot together. And I said to her like, hey, maybe Sares could be a really nice name because mix the first letter of of my name and your last name, which in my opinion it's freaking amazing, feels really, really strong. And it's the name of the god of the war, and it's really powerful in my opinion.
Mhm.
And that's when Sar is born. But after maybe I don't know, I think it was like 2 months, she said to me, "Hey, I need to explore my own career." And I said like,
Mhm.
"Okay, that's cool. That's really, really cool. But I will keep your last name on my name." So that's the meaning of Sares, it's a mix of us, but
Mhm.
now it has its own like concept behind,
Mhm.
because it's really personal, but it's really strong because in like she's still being the other half of my career. Like, if she wasn't there, I don't know if everything just start going through this path. So
Mhm.
I consider her like the other half of of my career.
That's very heartwarming, and I love that. We need more men like you that will take their wives' last names. Um, but I wanted to ask you. So, of course, in real life, then one of your, I guess, motivations or the people around you that you're closest to is a fellow artist. Leading it back now to the residency, how is it like to be in a space full of other emerging artists or people just who have different experiences in the field, your advisors, for example? Are you used to working in a community or is this something new that you're experiencing in the residency?
Well, that's that's a nice question. Like all my career, that's a nice question because I used to work with teams. Like on my
Mhm.
studio, I used to have a team of professional like designers or visual artists, or like uh, m- yeah, different kind of professionals of creativity. But I don't used to work with other artists on Sares because I
Mhm.
feel like Sares is like the most personal part of myself, so I keep it really close.
Right.
I don't like to share a lot of that because you are like, think about it, you are sharing like your deepest feelings with someone who, if you don't know him or her, it's a kind of tricky. But
Mhm.
uh, in this particular case, this is my second residency, and I think it changed the whole idea
Mm-hmm.
because it's really inspiring. For real, when when I received the email of the residency was, okay, this is so freaking cool. I love this. Until I saw the day and of the calls, when I read Sunday 2
There.
p.m. was, oh shit, forget the Sunday naps.
Yeah, sorry about that one.
No, but last week I think we were talking just about it on
Mhm.
the group meeting, and you changed the concept of Sundays for real,
Oh.
because it's really inspiring to be there, just talking about philosophy and Renaissance and art, and thinking about
Mhm.
new ideas, and also meeting new artists, but not only the artists, because we can meet a lot of artists, but it's really interesting when you start meeting the way that the other artist thought. So that's
Mhm.
really, really inspiring. And I remember that I said to Art last Sunday, and it's really, really beautiful how when we just finish the call, you start feeling like with a lot of um, energy and
Mhm.
inspiration to start working on the project, and I think that's amazing. It's really nice because it creates a kind of synergy between all the people there. And don't know, like last Sunday we just finished talking about cinema and in a kind of relaxed way, and that's really nice because there's one thing that I don't like about the art world, and it's when sometimes it starts getting, a kind of really snob or hard to understand, you know.
Mhm.
And I really love when we can break with that and start making it more decentralized and open the doors to new people. Like you are onboarding new artists into the Web3 world. I think that's
Mhm.
awesome because people needs to start knowing what are just digital art and NFTs, not only a monkey, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's awesome in my opinion.
Thank you. I have honestly so many notes to say on what you just said. First off, is I love, love, love what you said about like Sundays being changed for you. Not only does it make me like so excited and grateful to have people like you as part of this, but just as like the title of this podcast, for example, Sundays are for contemplation. I think part of our feel for like a Sunday afternoon has started with Nicole and I just talking about the randomest like philosophical ideas.
Conversations. Yeah.
When
Well, I
yeah,
mean, to give context, like this podcast started because we were both hung, to be honest, hung over. And I feel like when we're hung, we have way more like intimate conversations. We were both
yeah,
on my couch and we were just like, we should record what we're talking about. We sound so smart, which probably we're so like delirious, maybe not, but
yeah.
but that's kind of like the philosophy I feel like that everyone in the group is like trying to
The
bring
mhm.
out.
Yeah.
I think like what you said too with like the art world being very exclusionary,
Hmm.
we feel the same way, and also with academia
Hmm.
and how a lot of people when they become experts in like a certain topic, they think that it's okay to like only cater to another specific group of people that will understand that. And like you said, there's people in this residency. I think a quarter of them have never minted anything on chain or done. Some of them haven't even made any visual art before, just have composed music or written poetry. And so I'm excited to see also how that impacts you in the end, like getting to learn about like other artists' methods, how your project will develop. Um, and I do want to ask you, what are you maybe most looking forward to about this residency? Are you going to be in Florence, by the way?
I would love that. Don't know now.
Mhm.
But let's see. Let's see if we can achieve that. If all the pieces get together as I want,
Mhm.
maybe it could be possible. So
Yeah.
I'm working on some stuff. So
Mhm.
we could be. It's not impossible right now.
Yeah. I
Two
like
weeks
that. It's
ago
not.
was possible, but now it's
It's
And
maybe.
regard,
Maybe.
regarding to the question, what was the question?
Um, just what are you looking like most forward to in this residency or about having your project like in Florence, for example? Are you looking forward to the fact that it will be exhibited at the end with like your fellow peers in that city? Um, yeah. I feel
Like
like I worded
uh,
that weirdly. Sorry.
um, well, let's divide that question into at first, like what I'm looking for. I think as like residencies for me are a kind of playground, you know,
Mhm.
full of people who do the same that I do, and it's a nice way to learn different things, but not only in a kind of academic way, just the theory. It's a nice way
Mhm.
to experience things. Also, taking consideration like frustration. I was
Mm.
frustrated last week, just fighting with an idea, and and I think like this is that was also a part of this. So I think like I'm looking for fun. Like now, I remember that I heard I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago, an artist who
Hmm.
said to me like art is is fun. Just you need to have
Mhm.
fun, and that's what I'm looking for right now. Like some years ago, I would say like, yeah, I'm looking for new knowledge and that stuff, but now I just want to play with ideas and meet new people that share the same passion than me. So, and that's not so common, because like it's not easy to find people who love Renaissance
Mhm.
philosophy. That it's are so we are so unique, I think. Like,
Yes.
and that's why what I'm looking
Wait, do you
for
mind repeating what you
from
said? I
from
think you
the
broke up for a second.
residency, and also okay, what part?
Just the very last part.
No, like for me, okay, like no, I'm looking just for fun and met
Mhm.
new people that share the same passion than me. I think because I really believe that we are so unique. It's not so common to find people who like Renaissance philosophy or Renaissance art, and all of the team involved knows a lot. Like I'm really, really impressed because you all knows a lot about the topic, and that's awesome.
Mhm.
And regarding to the other question,
What was the other? Well, if not, I would also want to like ask you. I know you said you're very passionate about
oh,
Renaissance.
so sorry.
Renaissance. Oh no,
So
no.
I remember. Um,
No, go ahead. Go
like
ahead. I'll ask.
like Florence. What I feel of the idea to being exhibited in Florence. Let's be honest, that's freaking awesome. Like I was talking with you a few minutes ago, saying like, "Hey, Renaissance guided all my freaking life,"
Mhm.
and now have the possibility to display an artwork there. It's just, it's amazing. Like it sounds like it's unbelievable for me. Like have the possibility to show an artwork in the other part of the world right now, and
Hmm.
in the city where like the one of the most important movements of into in the art history started, is it's an honor, I think. Like Da Vinci walked through that streets, and that's really crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, it is crazy, I think, to think about all of these artists that were living hundreds of years ago and we're studying them today and just kind of getting so much inspiration from them. It's an experience for sure.
Yeah, and I was gonna say. I mean, you never know. You could be the next Da Vinci. SARES. So I
Oh,
feel
that's
like they
pretty
were
good.
probably. I think. Yeah, like
That sounds good. Sounds good. I like that idea. Yeah.
you
Let's
never
see
know.
in maybe 400 years. Please, someone told me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I might have to get your autograph now, just in case.
Like our descendants.
Just,
Yeah.
just
What?
to secure some value.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, no. What? Well, connected to that, like you said, you're very passionate about Renaissance art. But I wanted to ask if there was maybe any other reason why you like applied to the residency. I don't know. Besides, I know we're an amazing, fun team. But I don't know if
Yeah.
there's anything else.
yeah, in like I I met all of you some like month ago when you arrived
Hmm.
into the space, but I'm really grateful with Simbad.
Yeah.
I met him like I don't know maybe 1 or 2 years ago I think. Yeah, yeah, on
Hmm.
2023, and gave me the possibility to display one of my artworks inside the one of exhibition of 30 Campos Elíseos.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Was that the
And
Madrid exhibition that we that
yes,
was
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
that one.
yeah.
Yes.
okay.
I remember.
And
Yeah.
on that moment, uh, that moment of my career was when I was just struggling with the idea, what the hell am I doing? Because I didn't have any kind of, results like was the first part of the bear market.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he just made a kind of open call, and I applied, and he really connect with my work without saying any word. Like also it's really crazy because I talked to him like the first time I talked to him was just 2 months ago,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and when I saw the application the application for the residency was like I want to meet these people. I want to
Yeah.
know who they are because when someone connect with your work just with the visual part without words or without just collecting just only it's only visual when you saw something and
Mm-hmm.
you said, hey, I feel that's really pure and I really respect him. So that's why I need to I say I need to apply because I want to also learn more because like Renaissance is one of the main part inside my aesthetics. Like now
Hmm.
I'm mixing like some kind of analytical part with Renaissance and Baroque too. And if you saw the my first artworks, like the early pieces, uh, they were just pure Renaissance and Baroque.
Hmm.
So it's like it's a pure connection with that, and
Yeah.
that's when I said I want to be there.
And I'm curious, do you have any like specific pieces that maybe our listeners right now they can search up of yours that you would like to share with them?
Yeah, yeah. There are a few. I don't
Hmm.
know right now which. I think they are right now like the first ones, which are part of Fragilis series, are I'm really proud of them.
Hmm.
And right now I'm in love with a series, which I made. It's called Amores,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
and inside that series, there is a particular piece which I really enjoy the production. That like sometimes during the production, I go to hate and love at the same time, just in between 5 minutes. I hate it, I love it, and but there's one piece called Proprium with
Mm-hmm.
that reflects on self-love, and that series in particular, Amores, it was the first one that has a kind of positive approach of emotions because it reflects on love, and I
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
think love is when I was making it, I started thinking, okay, what kind of love I got around myself, and I start thinking about it, and I was thinking on my nephew, which born two
Hmm.
years ago, and that triggers Adoro. The
Mm-hmm.
other one, there's a lot, but one in particular was the result of an exploration, just I was participating for the Claire contest, Claire Silver contest, and
Mm-hmm.
the idea was just play, you know. That was the rule. You just play. Imagine that you're a child with a kind of white paper in front of you, and you just want to create something unbelievable. And I didn't wanted to participate of that contest. I don't participate in contest. I don't like them.
Mhm.
But again, Barb said to me like, "Hey, you should apply. Just play with that. Have fun." And I say, well, I don't know. Maybe I could lose, and I don't like that. I'm a really bad loser. And I said, what the hell? Okay, let's do it. And I start thinking about it, and that triggered the idea of create a kind of imagination machine, you know? And that's when Symbiosis, which is a kind of interactive system I made for the contest, born. So I
Mhm.
was playing with just guiding my computer with my hand
Mm-hmm.
and messing with some particles and over it some I was using real-time AI generation. And after that, I start looking through the at the piece. I was like, hey, I really love it. I need to make a piece. I need to mint it. I don't used to mint a piece inside of a series after the series gets sold.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, I need to do it. I need to do it. And I start just playing with also generating AI music with AI, and
Mm-hmm.
that triggered a kind of a whole experience, which was really um, like making me feel a lot of pleasure during the production, and that's not common on my career.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really proud of that piece.
I'm happy to hear that. That's nice that you're able to experience more, I guess, joy in the process rather than in just the result, you know?
Yeah, that's super
Yeah,
amazing.
to totally agree.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, I know, well, Soph and I were stalking you and we were looking at the works ourselves, and I hope the viewers will do so as well, and they're really amazing. I know we can't technically give out information exactly about what's going on in the residency, like the specifics, but I don't know if you want to talk a bit about like what you kind of have working in the works. Because I know you
Yeah,
said you were doing like a couple of pieces that are going to be kind of tied, but not exactly the residency.
yeah. Like when we just started like when I started thinking on the idea for the residency, I didn't have a kind of exact emotion that I want to analyze, and was really difficult. Like the first week was
Mm-hmm.
a really nice challenge, and after that process, I just get out of my computer and start
Mm-hmm.
thinking about what's behind the idea of the residency. Like what's all the behind the topic, and I
Yeah.
start thinking about faith. Like faith, it's
Mm-hmm.
more than just religion. Faith is a kind of way to see life. Faith, like it's motivation, it's belief, it has a lot of meaning, and also it's tension too. So I decided to start exploring the idea of faith as an emotion and what different type of faith we can find like if we just start thinking about it. And now I'm playing. with some a kind of mix between AI sculptures and data sculptures to create the base of the my pieces are divided in three parts,
Hmm.
all of them. Like there is a kind of generative part, which is always or sometimes like the back of the piece. Also there is the AI part and also the intervention part. And I just started playing with the data and AI to create just sculptures because at first like I really loved sculptures, but
Hmm.
I also like the ugliness of the situations that the Renaissance sometimes represent. So the challenge was like, okay, how we can talk about faith in a beauty and positive way, playing with ugliness to generate something beautiful. And that's the recap of my project, I think.
I remember in the last session when we were talking about ugliness, and that to me, it just kind of popped into my head, and I felt like I had to ask what everyone else's conceptions on it was, because I think people, they love to mix art with simply meaning that something that's beautiful for a person to look at, when art means so many different things. And it's just I was fascinated by the idea of exploring ugliness. And I like that you're taking many different things here as your source of inspiration. And I think it's that's why, kind of like, again with the residency, like it's so focused on an era of time where it was very rich with just ideas, and people taking them and kind of going like focusing on those ideas for 15 years and creating something that people still talk about to this day. um I don't know, I think I partially, like, I aspire that this, what is produced from this residency, like people will talk about for a long time, because I think everyone who's in it right now is just, all of you guys are such intelligent thinkers, and I'm like in awe every time everyone has anything to say. But yeah.
It's it's really interesting if you like at first this is a personal opinion. I don't know the meaning of beauty. What is beauty? Because maybe for you means something and for me means other thing, and everyone has their own opinion or their own perception about beauty.
Hmm.
And I think like we are living in a society where beauty right now it's a kind of commodity. Beauty
Yeah.
right now is plastic. And in my opinion, when beauty comes just plastic, we need to
Hmm.
start exploring different conceptions or meaning of of beauty. Like social media, in my opinion, it's killing beauty because it,
Hmm.
it's making it just a kind of Coca-Cola bottle, and that's so sad because, for example, like if we go back to the Renaissance, the meaning of beauty was craft, was aesthetic, was concept, was a
Hmm.
kind of a mix of all that stuff. A kind of also like a lot of reflection and philosophy. And right now, just if we think about beauty, like what's the common beauty? It's like an Instagram post full of likes, and that's so
Hmm.
sad, you know, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things inside beauty. Like consider nature, you know.
Hmm.
Okay, you in the nature, if you saw a flower, if you see a flower, okay, you know that that's beauty. It's really beautiful. But if you saw, I don't know, let's say a dolphin giving birth to another dolphin, that's beauty too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beauty too. Maybe it's not a visual beauty, but it's a kind of conceptual beauty, and the meaning of that, it's pure beauty. So
Mm,
that's why I think we need to start exploring more into the ugliness, to start discovering new ways of beauty. That's why I think I'm in love with the first models of AI or GAN networks, which
mm,
were made of mistakes,
yeah,
and we as humans are made of mistakes.
yeah. I'm curious also to think if your experience in this community, if you've encountered people kind of being able to explore themselves more deeply, or do you think how it was before, like in the traditional art world, if there was more room for exploration then? Like in another word, do you find that people are just copying each other more now and they just say that they're different, or are we in a new era of art?
It's a hard
Okay,
question.
that's a it's a hard question, but it's a good one because uh, I mean, like, for example, if we consider, let's go back to the Renaissance
Mhm.
and consider that in that time the access to the information was really
Mhm.
small. Not everyone can access the good access. I don't
Yeah.
know the meaning, the past of can, and not everyone can access to information. So I think there were more complex to just copying each other because if you like spend 4 years making a network,
Mhm.
it's hard to copy the other one. Right now, it's more easy, I think. We are full of information, but
Mhm.
it depends a lot of the artist, I think. Like, I met a lot of people right now in the space, which, in my opinion, are geniuses, you know. Like,
Mhm.
it was last Saturday morning, I was just talking with a collector
Hmm.
regarding to this topic. And right now, okay, it's so easy to copy each other, but also if you see this world full of commodities, copy pasta is a kind of critique.
Mhm.
So it depends of how you see it, but also you can now experiment a lot using different technologies which are really easy to access. So as artists right now we have two options. Like you can just copy something and say it's mine or it's just an interpretation or a critique. But it's only a critique if you are really critical because you,
Mhm.
you need to give meaning to that critique. Just the copy by the copy, it's a copy.
Yeah.
And right now the world is full of copyright. Like I remember that chapter of The Simpsons where plagio di plagio di plagio,
Mhm.
and and I think a lot of that, like people are just copying trends and copying a lot of stuff, but you can critique about it if you want to copy that. Or like I mean, like if you use the concept to make a critique using the copy idea, it's
Hmm.
really
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
also,
that makes me
yep,
think of, for example, Andy Warhol, how he criticized other artists in his time. And I know that's a traditional artist from years ago, but he was a huge copied. Who was it that he copied? Just other photographers, other painters, and then he created his own different style. So love
yeah,
him or hate,
yeah,
yeah.
sorry, and but in that particular case, I think Gandhi was a genius, and he he critiqued copy using copy as a way of expression too. Because, for example,
Mhm.
in my opinion, he was a visionary when he
Mhm.
started talking about the 5 minutes of fame of the people. Like that's what happened now, you know.
Mhm.
That so, in my opinion, it's really interesting, and it's a really intelligent way to use copy as a kind of critique.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you think that you would stay authentic to yourself when you're working kind of in a field that's so diverse? Or like, how do you say that your art just evolves on its own, or do you always try to just tap into very much like what you're saying, your inner motivations and what inspires you to keep working?
Well, authenticity is a really nice concept, but I think particularly in my case, like my art evolves as I evolve as human. Like it it represents just a kind of particular time in my life, and
Mhm.
it won't happen again, you know. That's why I think they are a kind of unique. Not in a kind of like plastic way, you know. Just the
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
meaning of each piece is like I don't know if I will feel that kind of love in that way again in my life. Maybe yes, maybe
Hmm.
don't. But if I feel the same kind of love in my life, it will be different
Hmm.
because I won't be the same.
Hmm.
So that's what I like, like I perceive about authenticity. It's more than just visual. I think it's a kind of way of living, like I don't like as not only as an artist, as a human, I don't consider a lot like the opinion of the other people, like I want to live just by my way. And
Hmm.
of course I always consider the critique and all that stuff, but I don't care what people think about what I'm doing right now. But not just in my life, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool, but that's why I got a therapist, That's the only opinion I care.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. But I think it's interesting what you have to say. And like, for example, when I create some of my poetry, I always too like create it just out of an experience that I had myself, and I'm not necessarily thinking about what another person is going to think when they see it or they hear it. But when a listener, reader does resonate with a piece, it's I feel like that eventually, like when you're creating your piece, I feel like sometimes I think about it like inevitably. Um, and I'm wondering too, with for you, since this residency is so intentional, is that having some sort of impact in how you think the viewer will look at your final project when they're in Florence and seeing it? Or
That's
do you
a,
still have the same mentality where you're like trying to come out with something that's very much authentic still?
that's a good question because I was thinking about it, not not just thinking. I was struggling with the idea
Mm-hmm.
because at first, when I just started thinking about what I want to do for the
Mm-hmm.
for the piece or the series, was like I just started exploring inside my pieces, like okay, like oh, I want to do something peaceful and beauty, like perfume where everything dance, and I just get stick to that idea, and it triggers nothing, just like I didn't knew what to do. And when I just get out of that idea and just
Mm-hmm.
started thinking like I want to express myself, and I don't want to consider if someone will like it or not. Just if someone will like it, that will would be awesome because it would be really a pure connection, like oh, someone like what I express. But that's why I just kill the idea of just create something for the perception of the spectator eyes, I like to create just to express myself, and if that result like likes to the spectator, that's awesome. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get out that idea because it was really hard, to start putting the pieces together to create something visual, which recreates like, oh, the people loves the flowers, and the people like the particles, and the people loves how the everything moves. Because it's another concept, it's another idea, it's another moment of my life, it's another context
Mhm.
also. So I don't like to just to create something for for the spectator. I just want to express what I feel and play with that.
No, I was gonna say, I think that has a lot of sense because I think, at least for me, I'm not an artist, but when I connect with art, because I do love looking at art, I feel like it's like the authenticity of the artist that is what connects. Obviously, like there's style elements that are really nice, like you said. Oh, people really like the flowers or like the specific style, but I think like there's always gonna be, okay, not all society is going to just like one style. I think people are going to be evolving with you, and there's going to be new people that will admire your art, regardless of what route it takes. So I'm glad that you're choosing your authenticity, is what I'm going to call this. But like
Mhm.
before it, because I mean I'm excited for the journey too. Like as a viewer, is like I've seen your flower work, and I mean it's beautiful. I like very girly and romanticized like things, but I'm excited to see what you come up with in this residency.
Mhm.
But yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, sorry, that's really interesting what you said, because in my opinion, the spectator is the other half of the piece, is who
Mhm.
finish the piece, because
Mm.
Mhm.
you will give it like the meaning. I
Mhm.
can say like,
That's
oh, I did a flower because I love flowers, and that's beauty for me. But if that resonates with you, it is a kind of psychological connection where you start creating a kind of meaning of
Mhm.
my visual result. Like for me, it's a kind of play with yeah, it's a kind of game with two players.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that.
It's true.
Well, Saris, if you have any final thoughts, we just want to thank you so much for coming and doing this interview with us. Um, yeah, any last questions? Any last thoughts, guys?
No, I
Now,
mean last I was gonna say no. I'm so glad we've gotten to speak. I feel like in the residency, I don't speak much because I want to give you guys the opportunity. So it's been great. Like I know I'm quiet, I'm in the background, but I love talking to you and hearing your thoughts and your creative
Yeah,
process. Again, like I'm here for, like for the
yeah.
ride.
And also, if after the exhibition, we would love to invite you back onto this podcast so we can give a little recap of how everything went and fully get to know how the journey went from start to finish for you
Hmm.
guys. So,
sure, count on me. And I just wanna add like thank you so much for the opportunity, not only for the podcast, like I mean for all the opportunity that you are giving to me. And also thank you so much for believing my work. That I'm really grateful about that, because it really means a lot. Like my life changed in the last 6 months, and I'm really grateful about all that stuff, and grateful about everyone who is involved, and you are involved. So thanks.
of course, thank you so much, that is. We hope to see more of you in the space, and
We hope to see you in person in Florence
of
too.
course,
Sure. Let's light on some candles.
Yeah.
we're gonna manifest this. Everyone who's listening to this, manifest this artist comes to Florence.
So thank you so
Okay,
much.
well, of
Of course.
course.
See you girls,
And
and count on me for the next after
Yes, of course.
Flores.
Wait and hope, guys.
Wait and hope.